Welcome to A Taste of AZ podcast. My name is Luke Irvin, and today we've got an epic episode lined up for you. But before we jump into that, just want to let you guys know real quick, we've got some brand new merchandise up on our website, including these Thanks for Supporting Local hats and 2 new shirts as well. If you like today's episode, please also leave us a review on your favorite podcast app, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow our email newsletter. With nothing else to say, let's jump into today's episode. Hello, A Taste of AZ listeners. We are here today in northern Scottsdale, and I will let my guest go ahead and introduce herself and where we are right now.
Hi, my name is Melissa Maggiore, and we are here at the Italian Daughter in North Scottsdale.
And what is the brief explanation of what the Italian Daughter is?
It encapsulates who I am. I'm an Italian daughter. Specifically, my father, Tommaso Maggiore, was a huge inspiration in my life. And when I relocated back to Arizona, it was during his illness, and I really wanted to do something to pay homage to him. And when I was doing inventory of my life, I was thinking of all these different names I could call this restaurant. But at the end of the day, who I am is an Italian daughter.
And, anyone who knows anything about Arizona food and beverage would probably know who your father is. But if you could kind of take us back to where your life started and kind of how he intertwined into that and how food intertwines into your life.
Well, I think as an Italian, you're born with not a silver spoon in your mouth, but a fork in your hand because food it really is just our life, right? I was born in New York. My father had a couple of pizzerias there, and he was tired of the snow, and he heard about Arizona, and he wanted to go out west, and he took a ride here with myself. I was I think 4 years old. My brother was just born, and he fell in love with the desert. And he used to joke that he taught Italian cuisine to Geronimo because there was really nothing here when he got here. But food was always just a part of my life, an everyday part of my life. And even as I ventured out on my own, I grew up here. I went to ASU. I was a journalism major. But something about the restaurant business and about food just kept pulling me back in. It's a little bit like the mafia. You can't get out of it once you're in.
If anyone is a mafia family here and is hiding it well, it's you guys. Just kidding, of course, if any federal agents are listening. Yeah, right. Exactly. But you mentioned your brother as well, Joey Maggiore. Both of you guys have kind of a lineage that follows your fathers and your families of opening wonderful restaurants. You mentioned before we were doing the podcast, and you briefly mentioned it here, that you were going to school for journalism. What pulled you in that direction?
I'm a news junkie. So aside from being a foodie, I think back then, I ideally wanted to, I'm a writer. I love to write. I love storytelling. And I wanted to travel the world and write about experiences that I had. And ironically, although I came back into the restaurant business, I still tell a story every day. I think that food is storytelling as well. Sure.
Well, and I think Italian food is, it's kind of all different foods, and they do it in their own different ways, but Italian food is known as like the quintessential. It revolves around the ingredients and what's in season. And I think that is a beautiful way of telling the story of, what part of the year we're in and what kind of food you should be eating. How do you tell a story with your food?
I think I tell the story of my lineage. Dishes that my nonna taught my father, dishes that we have at home. When you come into the Italian Daughter, some people might think that I'm not as modern as maybe some of the newer restaurants out there right now. But in reality, I just want to do the food that I grew up with around the table with my family.
Sure.
And show the beauty in that and show the showcase in that. And, my meatballs, they're not just meatballs. They're meatballs that my father taught me how to make because he spent hours in the kitchen with his own mother and grandmother on a Saturday or Sunday, and then their whole family came over. And the stories that evolve from that, the laughs, the memories, that's what food is for me. It's more than just the taste in your mouth, but it's the feeling you get when you're eating it. There are mornings here when I'm smelling the sauce being made, and it brings me back to a time where I was in Sicily with my family, or in the kitchen on a Sunday morning with my father. And I think that's the beauty of food, because it brings you back to those special places.
And it seems like of all the different types of cooking, Italian food is maybe the most known for that kind of thing. But like if you look at Hispanic culture and Mexican food, you kind of get a similar thing of,
Yes.
Life is centered around food. And I think that, despite America being a melting pot of all these different cultures, that kind of for a while was lost. And I think places like this are bringing that back to life. And I think throughout, COVID and things being not as intimate with family and whatnot, there's a big place for those types of establishments.
I believe that. And, during COVID, my kids, because even I am guilty of maybe not doing the family dinner the way that I grew up.
Sure.
Because our lives get busy. But during COVID, if there were some blessings, one of them was bringing back the family Sunday dinner. I did a lot of cooking when I was at home during that time period. My kids learned recipes. My own son found his own passion for cooking. Now he works here 3 days a week, where prior to COVID, he didn't want to do that. So there's some beauty in that.
Well, and it's incredible how much of a family business your family has created, right? While you are not working directly with your brother, unless, correct me if I'm wrong there, you have your individual restaurants. But the fact that I can go here and have, a meal and try your food, and then right up the street from where I live is a Hash Kitchen, right around the corner from my grandmother-in-law, the Italiano is coming together. And then I don't know, do you have anything else in the works right now?
I do. I'm opening my second location, the Italian Daughter Pizzeria, in North Scottsdale. So on Scottsdale Road and Lone Mountain, a little bit north of that.
Okay.
And that's kind of bringing it back to the beginning. My father started off with pizzerias, and I've always just wanted to do something to kind of bring it back to the roots. And so that's what I'm doing. We should be open in the fall. Looking forward to it.
Well, let's circle back to that a little bit then, right? You were going to college for journalism. I imagine you graduated. It sounds like that, right? What was kind of the pathway from there? Were you ready to jump right back in the kitchen once you graduated, or was it a slow and steady bringing back?
So my father was getting ready to open a restaurant in Coronado. It was very hot here at that time of year. And my father said, why don't you go to Coronado? I need you to open that restaurant for me. I need you to run it. I said, I don't want to go, Papa. I like it here. I want to stay in Arizona. I've got things I want to do. I'm not really, I feel like been working in a restaurant my entire life. It's like time for me to go this other avenue. He said, Melissa, please, I need you. It's hot. Come on. Don't worry about it. Just go. So I went and actually decided to stay there and never looked back. I helped him open that restaurant, another, and then eventually I opened a restaurant of my own in La Jolla, and then Encinitas and Carlsbad, and I stayed there until 2019. I moved back here. Right before COVID hit, I moved back here.
And what is the difference between running a restaurant in California versus Arizona, if there is a difference?
Well, as a business owner, it's there's just a different feel in Arizona. There's a camaraderie here and a sense of community here in the Valley that I never really felt in California. Yes, the restaurants were successful. Yes, I had loyal customers who came for years. But I think that, first of all, my father paved the way for my brother and I. He did a lot to pave the way for us to find success here. But the sense of community is unlike anything else. And I just, the warm reception I got when I came back, the love that people had for my father, it really extends to my brother and I, and we're just blessed every day for that.
And it's interesting because we've heard other people reiterate that kind of same sentiment before, but no one that I've personally interviewed has kind of the lineage that you're mentioning, and your family is known for being a big part of that community. So I don't think anyone's going to complain about you guys bringing some more good food into Arizona.
I hope not.
So as you're out in California opening these restaurants, had you had experience running businesses before, or was that kind of just, taking your father's guidance and running with it?
I'd been working at Tommaso's on 32nd Street in Camelback since I was 12. So I think I just learned from him. It was just something that was always inside of me. My brother and I both always were running my father's restaurants. And eventually, he had so many at one time that he would send each of us to different locations if there was a problem. We were kind of like the hitmen for the problem at the restaurants.
The fixer, right?
Yes, that's right, the fixer. And that's kind of how we learned the business. We were thrown into the deep side of the pool.
Arguably the best way to learn the business.
It actually is. You know, at one point, my brother was going to culinary school and learning, restaurant hospitality. And after not even a year, he said, none of what they're teaching me is really applicable to real life, right? Which, I mean, I shouldn't say none, but after the life experiences we had, it was hard to go into a classroom. And, you know, we had the ultimate classroom.
Well, because when you're in a classroom and you're learning, the stakes, in a way, are kind of, I get a bad grade or I don't do well in this class. Whereas if you're running not only one restaurant, but several restaurants, the mistakes have a lot larger impact. So not only are you forced to learn about them more, but if you don't, then you get a whole stack of different problems that you then have to solve after that.
Right. The risk is huge. You know, my husband did not grow up in the restaurant business. He is not in the restaurant business. And I met him when I already had my own restaurants. So when we decided to open up the Italian Daughter, this is the first restaurant I've opened where he has seen it from the beginning until now. And I think this was eye-opening for him. I think people think that, oh, you own a restaurant, it must be so glamorous. You get up, you get to talk to people, you eat. No, I'm the first one here. I'm the last one to leave. I wash dishes, I bus tables. I've got employees that I have to pay, and it's a huge risk. Restaurant business is not easy, and the stakes are high, and everything I have is in this restaurant. It has to succeed. And COVID really was difficult for us. As you can imagine, my industry was impacted so greatly that it was really sink or swim. And there were days I thought I was going to drown.
Well, and, owning a business in general is rough. But as well-oiled as a machine as a restaurant can be, because stuff always goes wrong, and particularly in this business, it's incredible to think that after all these years of doing it, you still get in here and you have to do that. And for you, it's so normal, but for the average person, we don't really realize what goes into operating a restaurant. I think the average person believes that if someone owns a business, they're a millionaire, and it's really quite different of a reality. So as you've kind of, over the years become more adaptive and able to build a restaurant up, what are some of the things that you've learned over time?
I think that the importance of being able to do every single thing in this restaurant, it's very important. If the chef walked out tomorrow, I can go back there and cook. I know how to mix a drink. I know about wine. I can wait on tables. I can fix things that I didn't think I'd have to know how to do. I know a lot more about plumbing than I ever wanted to.
That's hilarious.
But you have to know every aspect, because you cannot be in a position where you're only as good as the employee who knows how to do it, because if God forbid something happens to that person, you're in a lot of trouble. And now more than ever, I'm sure you've heard that post-COVID, finding staff has really been a struggle unlike anything I've ever seen. And so my expertise in things has really had to come in handy more than ever. My current chef, who I'm so lucky to have, Chef Vittorio, we laugh about the days of opening this restaurant where he looked over and I'm either washing dishes or I'm in the pizza section or the pantry cooking, or the next day I'm waiting on tables. You just have to be versatile, and you have to just be ready for anything. It's not going to be easy. It's not for the faint of heart. And, overnight success stories, we've all heard the 10-year overnight success story. That's really what it is. It's blood, sweat, and tears that gets you to this point.
Well, and it's interesting too, because, when I was setting up, you had a few of your family members and some staff coming in and whatnot, and there's just such a warmth that it kind of feels like the stereotypical Italian restaurant where everyone's like giving each other hugs and smiling and whatnot. But you can feel that, and I would imagine that permeates throughout everything that you guys are doing. And I probably caught you at a good time. You might not be smiling as much if it's the middle of a crazy rush and some pipe breaks and you got to do plumbing in the middle of that. But does that help when you're recruiting people and keeping people on?
I think that it does. And I really think that stems from my father. Currently, we have employees, I don't even want to call them employees, they're family, that have worked at my father's restaurant since I was 5 and 6 years old. I mean, my father had just this knack for keeping people, retention, like nothing I've ever seen. And I think it was his hospitality and his generous, hospitable nature. And as Italians, we are warm people. I'm not trying to brag, but we are. And we're a family, and we're a family here. Even though this restaurant's only 2 years old, I have found that here. And we're together 14, 15 hours a day. And, there are nights where we all want to throw in the towel, including myself. And that's when we pick each other up and we laugh. And it's the camaraderie that we have with each other. We all have each other's backs. And I think that's important for the restaurant, but any business.
Sure.
You're a team. I'm not somebody who leads by just sitting down and dictating. That's not who I am. It's not who my father was. It's not who my brother is. We all work hard, and we work alongside people. And I think that's the way to get people to rally around you and do their very best when they see you working aside them.
Well, and you can tell the depth of the passion as well, right? Because as with any business, you're not just doing it for the passion, but if you're just doing it for the money, things like that fall through the cracks, and you can get a sense here that it is very much not for the money. I have a feeling that if money wasn't a concept, you'd probably be in here making wonderful meatballs and things like that for the people you love anyways, right?
I think so. When I sit and talk to my husband about our retirement, my retirement consists of a restaurant because I love it. I love serving people. I love meeting people. I love sharing who I am each night. And what I was taught and how I grew up. I love sharing that with people. And word to the wise, if you're in this business for just the money, get out now because, it's far and few between.
So you mentioned it was in around 2019 that this concept began forming together, right? Or is that just when you came back?
Well, it's when I came back.
Okay.
My father was sick. Unfortunately, he was fighting cancer. And so his health was the top priority, and he had this location. It was a Tommaso's concept.
Okay.
And during his treatment, COVID happened. We closed this location. We didn't operate it during COVID. And when it was getting ready to reopen, I had decided at that point I need to stay with family. We knew my father didn't have a lot of time left, and there's nothing more important than family. So I really felt like I needed to be back here with my mom, my brother, my nieces and nephews. And I started looking for restaurant locations. And my father said, "You know what, Melissa, why are you doing that? Take Tommaso's when in Rome." And I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes, I really believe in that location." And my brother said, "I don't think you should take it. It's too far north. I really want you to be very successful. There's not a lot up there yet. If it's a few more years before there's a lot of building going on, maybe you should find something a little more south." And my father just believed in this location. And he said, "I want you to take it." And I just started thinking about it. What do I want to do? And then, my dad never saw it open. He passed away 2 years ago, but he did know the name. I got to tell him what I was calling it. And I feel my dad in this restaurant every day. I'm going to try not to cry, but it might not work. But, we talk about storytelling. Customers come in this restaurant, guests come in this restaurant, and they all have a story about my father. And so it's really been healing in a lot of ways because I get to see how he touched their lives. And it's been a beautiful thing. I'm so glad I took this location now because I feel him here every day.
Yeah, well, I'm personally trying not to cry because, everyone's kind of gone through something like that. And if you haven't yet in your life, you're probably very young or very blessed, and you will at some point. And, I've lost people to cancer as well. And I think, to be in your position where you're coming in here in a place that your father was so much, and I'm sure you have so many memories and the legacy that he's left, and that being so closely attached to you and your brother and what you guys are doing and really how it impacted the entire food and beverage community. it's beautiful to see the way that you've taken that and created kind of a new version and breathed new life into a building that you could have just given up, and then you don't get to have that attachment anymore. And I'm sure sometimes it's a little bit harder to come in and work sometimes when you're maybe having a bad day and you're missing him and remembering him. But like you said, that's a pretty spectacular moment to be able to have people come in and tell you that and be able to experience it in an area where your father was and you spent time with him.
Right. So I don't know if you've read the news, but we've decided to close Tommaso's at 32nd Street in Camelback after 46 years. It was something my father, while he was alive and sick, he wanted to move the location, and then that didn't happen. And we are going to close it, and we're going to, my brother's going to redo a building across the street from Tommaso's, so it won't be gone forever. But it was a very hard decision for us to make. And in these last couple of weeks, now that it's public, the last day of service is May 20th. I've been having a really hard time with it. And I think ultimately what's gotten me through is the last couple of days since it's been public, so many people have reached out to me that dine here, and they just tell me how much they're going to miss that place. They love my father, but they feel him and see him in everything that I'm doing and everything my brother's doing. So it's not a location. It's who we are, how he raised us, and what he and my mom instilled in us that makes us who we are, and we are able to carry on who he was regardless of where we are. So it's been really nice to have that support.
Yeah, well, I don't want to speak for you, but it feels like with kind of, a lot of your guys' concepts, the essence is family in a way, right? Yeah. And I think I guess I'll say thank you on behalf of myself and everyone else that has been able to come into your restaurants or your father's or your brother's and be able to create new family moments. And, like I was telling you before we started the podcast, that I'll probably come in with my grandma, and you're like, oh, we can, handle her dietary restrictions. And I think just taking that level of care and service and hospitality for the people that are coming in here is just, I feel like when people dine at a restaurant, it's so easy to be like, oh, my food was overcooked or something like that, and kind of lose sight of what a meal truly should be. And, of course, not every meal is going to be this big, monumental dining experience with your family or friends, but it seems like you guys are very, very focused on creating those types of experiences here and throughout all of your spots.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is from Maya Angelou, and she says, people might forget what you did, people might forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that quote reminds me a lot about my father and about what I'm trying to do here. We might not always get it right. I make mistakes on a regular basis. Unfortunately, sometimes I'll overcook my my chicken or veal, right? I mean, we're not perfect, but it's how I make sure that regardless of the mistake, it's how we fix it.
Sure.
And it's important to me that every guest leaves here feeling good, even if there was a problem. And it's true. All the stories that people are telling me, it's not about an exceptional meal they had with my father. It's about the time they spent with him, right? I mean, those are the things that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think back at a lot of my favorite meals with the people I love, it's that same thing, right? It's not the food that you ate, it's how you felt spending time with them.
Absolutely. It's enjoying the table.
Now, with that said, we have some delicious food in front of us. I'm sure the rest of your menu looks as beautiful and tastes as good as what we're looking at here. But talk to me about some of your popular menu items and some of the things we have on the table here.
So we have our octopus carpaccio, which is just very thinly sliced octopus. We do it with an arugula and tomato salad with pickled fennel and lemon. I love it. We grew up eating octopus. My kids love it. It's phenomenal. If you haven't tried it, you have to try it. My father's meatballs, they are actually, we sell more meatballs than I can even keep up with half the time. Yes, it's amazing. And then we have our fra diavolo. It's with shrimp and mussels, just with linguine. So we have a lot of classic dishes. We sell a lot of just so many arancini. Do you know what arancini are?
I do, yes. But for the listeners, would you go ahead and explain it?
And actually, ironically, I think today is National Arancini Day.
Oh, is it really?
Who knew? I think 10 years ago in this country, no one knew what arancini were, but now they're everywhere. And
you guys just had a slot on the news explaining how to make them, right?
We did. So it's a Sicilian specialty. It's a rice ball, a risotto ball. The classic one is rice stuffed with Bolognese sauce, peas, mozzarella, and then they're stuffed, breaded, and fried. They're not good for you, but they feel really good for you.
Yeah, right. It's good for the soul.
It's good for the soul. So we have the classic arancini, and then we also have a cacio e pepe style.
Oh, really?
Which is just pecorino cheese and black pepper. And then we do a mushroom one as well. And they fly off the shelves, so to speak.
Yeah, right. Well, let's get a quick break in and then dig into some more of the items on your menu, if you wouldn't mind.
Perfect.
Real quick message for you guys. If you guys are enjoying today's episode, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our email newsletter for all of the cool spots to eat and drink around town, as well as upcoming events and fun stuff like that. Also, we've got some brand new merch on our website, including these Thanks for Supporting Local hats and 2 brand new t-shirts. So make sure to check out our website for more. Now back to the podcast. Okay, so before our quick little break, you were discussing your arancini. Is there any other ones that you have besides the traditional and the cacio e pepe?
Yes, we have a wild mushroom and truffle arancini.
Oh, man.
It's very good. And occasionally we'll make a short rib arancini as well.
Okay, nice. And you mentioned that the meatballs are extremely popular. Are those one of your most popular items as well?
I think they are. They're delicious. They're moist. They're delicious. We can't keep them in. I think people just love meatballs, right? And then we do have a cioppino dish that is my father's cioppino recipe, which is a lot of just beautiful seafood in a delicious savory tomato, herb, saffron brodo. And you can have it with crusty bread, and you can have it with or without pasta. So it's either like a bouillabaisse or like a pasta dish.
Okay, and so it's basically just the seafood sitting in like a broth, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't had too much of that before. I haven't had cioppino too many times, but I will definitely have to try it here. And then Chula is not too far, and I've seen theirs, and it looks quite incredible as well. So I'll definitely have to.
They do a good job there too. We go there too. When
nice.
I'm not here, we go there.
yeah, it's a good spot. Okay, good to know. So talk to me a little bit about some of your entrees as well.
So we have something for everyone here. So if you're a vegetarian, I have 2 delicious eggplant dishes. I have a rolled and stuffed involtini of eggplant. And then I also have layered an eggplant parmigiana tower.
Oh, wow.
We make our delicious tortellacci here, which is kind of like like a ravioli, just a different shape. We have vegetarian options with spinach and ricotta in a pesto sauce with sun-dried tomatoes and goat cheese and pine nuts. People love that dish. We have short ribs that are fantastic. We feature a rotating ossobuco. So depending on every Friday and Saturday night. So you can have a veal ossobuco, a pork ossobuco, or
what
lamb.
exactly is ossobuco?
So it's a shank. So, a veal shank, which is braised with aromatic vegetables like carrots and onions, celery, and it's in a Barolo red wine reduction. And we do ours served over either sometimes a bed of saffron risotto, other times crema polenta. And it's delicious. We sell a lot of that. We only feature it Fridays and Saturday evenings.
Okay. What is your favorite thing on the menu, if you have a favorite? You can pick a few if there's a few that come to mind.
What is my favorite? I love our veal chop, the veal chop Milanese that you saw earlier.
Yes.
Very thinly pounded out with panko breadcrumbs, with like a beautiful fresh salad on top of pickled onions and tomato and arugula. I eat that a lot. My son's favorite dish here is the chicken marsala. It comes with a wild mushroom ravioli, and we get a lot of compliments on that. He eats that a lot. It's very good.
That's kind of calling my name right now.
Yeah,
it sounds
it's
delicious.
really good. I'll make you one. It's really, really good. I love that. I eat kind of, it's funny. People think that Italians eat tons of pasta and they're eating all day. I eat pretty simply. So I eat a lot of like grilled meats. But our veal chop's excellent. Our ossobuco is excellent. I feel like I'm on the spot because it's funny because I don't eat off my menu a lot. Is that horrible?
Well, I mean, you are impressing me with the amount of things that you've remembered, because whenever somebody asks you a question, particularly when there's a camera rolling and lights on you, it's like, for me, I can't remember anything. I feel like I can't even remember my own name sometimes when I'm in that position. But tell me a little bit about your drink program.
So, it's kind of interesting. I feel like the bar is the one area that is my Achilles heel, because I'm a huge wine drinker. So I think our wine program is really nice. I feature a lot of wines from Sicily, a lot of little jewels that people don't know. And then I have an extensive Napa Valley. Like, my reds are really great. And I love our wine program here. Our cocktail program, we have all the classics. We're not the restaurant where you're going to come and have all these crazy foofy drink. My brother is really good at that.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think I show my age when it comes to cocktails, but we have a great bartenders. I think in terms of our bar program, it's really about, somebody likened the restaurant 2 days ago to Cheers. This woman sits at the bar every night, 5 or 6 nights a week. I see the same person in her seat. And she said, I come here because I feel like it's Cheers. Everybody knows my name. And I think that's where we really shine, is in the personal experience with our guests.
Well, and I'm like a more classic cocktail guy. I like, fancy drinks and stuff like that, but I don't particularly like paying like $18 for a cocktail all the time. And then you mentioned your brother. I say this with all due respect. He is almost what I imagine it would be like if like 5-year-olds could drink, and they're like, I want to go to
they
giant,
can't.
Yeah, right. He's like, I want to go to a giant bar where I can pick anything I want and put a giant slice of bacon in my Bloody Mary and stuff like that. It cracks me up when I see it. But so when it comes to wine, what types of wines do you personally like to drink?
You know what? It really depends on my mood. Right now, I'm drinking a lot of white wine because I'm getting hot.
Yeah.
But I love Italian. I drink a lot of Italian wine. I love like a crisp, white, beautiful Sicilian, just white wine full of like mineral and acidity. I love that on a hot day. I really enjoy the wines of Sicily. My father had a winery in Sicily, and it was one of his passion projects. And I always say this, and people, Americans that don't get me, they're like, what, you were drinking when you were little? Because I say I grew up drinking wine, but I did. It was like a staple at our table.
It's very culturally different in Italy.
It
right?
is, yes. So I love Nero d'Avola. I love Amarone. I'm a big Amarone person. But I love, I just love wine.
Yeah.
I know that makes me sound like a wino, I think, but.
Well, it's interesting because, I feel like everyone kind of puts themselves in, I'm a beer drinker, I'm a cocktail drinker, or a wine drinker. But wine is, for me, one of the more difficult beverages to kind of wrap your head around, because there's so many different regions and so many different things that you can taste. But also it's like, the difference from, a light beer to an IPA is huge. Right. Whereas with wine, that gap is a lot smaller, and it's a lot harder to describe what you like. So I think you did a great job.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that over the years too, the gap between really great wine and bad wine has become smaller as well.
Sure.
So you don't have to go out. There's a misconception that the most expensive wine on the list is the best. That is not true. There are beautiful wines out there in all different price ranges, and it's really, there shouldn't be pretense around wine. I kind of don't like that. That's one of the things I don't like pretension at all. People that, I don't like show-offy people. I don't like people thinking that, the most expensive is the best. It's just simply not true. So I don't like that. You didn't ask if I liked it. I just told you I didn't.
I don't like it either. I'm right there with you.
I started to think about it, and I didn't like it.
Well, because I've been in that position where, being, even though I drink a decent amount of wine and other beverages and talk with a lot of people like yourself, and even wine producers and whatnot, I'm still very much a novice in that world. And so having a warm environment where you can try a new wine and pair it with some delicious food and have it around family and friends is really all you could ever ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. You should never be afraid to order something. My father and I used to joke about this because, if you go to wineries, and even the most successful wineries in Napa or Italy, the winemakers are very humble, beautiful people. Mm-hmm. They're farmers.
Yeah.
They are putting their story into their wines, and the wines are meant to be enjoyed, and there's no right or wrong answer. So, you could be drinking something that I don't like, but that doesn't mean that what you're drinking isn't good. It's all about what's the best wine? The one you like. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how, the food and beverage industry in general, it requires so much work to produce incredible products, whether it be delicious meatballs or a bottle of wine that's taken, over a year to actually reach completion and be in your hand. And so as an individual, I appreciate the industry very much. And I feel like people are starting to understand that more and more, especially, as it's harder and harder to keep people working in the kitchen or front of house or whatever it may be. People are learning, what really goes into it, especially people who have not been in the industry before. Right.
We've, I think a lot of people left our industry during COVID, and we have people who've never worked in the industry working in it now. And, I think it's eye-opening for them, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I've been in kitchens just shooting video and whatnot before, and I have a small enough ego that I could admit I don't think I'd be able to keep up. So that's why I like being out here and just tasting the delicious things that your crew and other crews are creating as well. So we've kind of run through all of it, but I guess the last question I'll ask you is kind of what type of experience should people expect when they come in here? Should they call and make a reservation? Is that something they should do online? Where can they find you?
They should. So we do tend to get very busy. I got to knock on something. So you can make a reservation with us on Open Table, or you can visit our website, which also has a link for a reservation, or just call. In addition to reservations, we have a lounge that is walk-in basis, and we have live music there 7 nights a week.
Nice.
Piano players, crooners, singer-songwriters, guitar players, and we have a beautiful patio too, so we have a little something for everyone. I would always recommend a reservation, but it's not necessary. And what you're going to expect is a warm welcome and hopefully what you consider a magical dish of pasta.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have a feeling that is exactly what people will get if they come in here. So thank you so much for sitting down with us and telling us your story.
I appreciate it.
And sharing, some of the personal components of what's gone into this place. Because I think if people know that and they come and dine here, they'll feel that through line and really appreciate what you put together here.
I hope so. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.